Welcome to this episode of the Uncharted Sounds podcast. I'm joined again by my good friend Noel. How you doing, Noel?
Good, mate. Looking forward to this one very much.
What have you been listening to this week?
Now, I have rediscovered a single I had ages ago that I'd kind of forgotten about, and I really like it. And I'm really glad I found it again. It's a Scottish band called Arab Strap, and the song is called First Big Weekend. It's kind of a bit of evocative of Train Spotting in a way. It's better like he's talking about this massive weekend where they go absolutely get wasted over the weekend and all sorts of things happen. It sounds very much like it could have been part of that script almost, with a bit of music building in the background on it. It was sort of notable because John Peel in 1996 made it number 2 in his Festive 50. So that's pretty impressive.
For me, I'm going to go back to 1973. So at one of the record fairs I went to, I picked up a box set, three albums of Electric Light Orchestra.
Wow.
And one of the albums was called On the Third Day. The record is still as, I don't know what you call it, but as contemporary or as more, it felt
Fresh.
really modern,
Yeah.
really fresh, really fresh and
Yeah.
modern. So that's been my listening pleasure this week. So no, this is a particularly going to be a particularly good episode, I think. So no, today's episode features a band I know that you and I have seen and both love, which is a band called the Stranglers.
Whatever happened to Leon Trotsky? He got an ice pick. The man is his boy. Whatever happened to Tiro Leonard? The great Almira and Central Cantor. Whatever happened to the heroes? Whatever happened to the heroes? Whatever happened to all of the heroes? Now let's take Spiros. They watch their own man. Whatever happened to the heroes? Whatever happened to the heroes? No more heroes anymore. No more heroes anymore.
So the Stranglers, I know you know them, but they've got this sort of myth around them. I think they're known for some of their bass lines, so that they're always sort of melodic, keyboard
Yeah.
driven melodies. They've always been associated with punk, but in reality they probably they weren't quite part of that. They were always sort of I would consider it to be on the periphery of it. And I always felt their sound was a bit more sophisticated. It was perhaps a little bit, there was an element of aggression, yes, but it also covered like a bit of psychedelia, a bit of new wave, as well as a bit of
Yeah. I mean, those swirling keyboards, just amazing. Yeah,
yeah, swirling
absolutely. And the
keyboards.
bass
Yeah,
line.
I guess there's been, depending on your point of view, there's been maybe 3 or 4 incarnations of the band. So if you look at the lineups, I won't go through them all, but they're sort of around that first period, 1974 to 1990. Then you've got 1990 to sort of 2000, and then 2000 to 2020, and then perhaps 2020 to 2025. I guess this is one of those bands that have been around for over 50 years. They've got an incredible legacy. If you look at that, they achieved 23 UK top 40 singles, 20 UK top 40 albums, and that first lineup, which had reached number 2 with a song I guess most people will know about, which is Golden Brown. And they also released had a number 2 album with the album No More Heroes, and of course I guess people will know that track as well. But more recently, they've just had a number 3 album with the album Dark Matters from couple of years ago. So, they've sort of managed to stay very current. Let's talk about that first incarnation of the band, which was Hugh Cornwell on guitars and vocals, Jet Black on drums, Dave Greenfield on keyboard and vocals, John Jacques Bennell on bass guitar and vocals. And then if I'm going to come right up to present day, so the current members of the band are Jean-Jacques Bennell on bass, on lead and backing vocals. So he's been with the band right from the beginning in
Mm,
70 from 1974 onwards. Baz Warne, guitar and vocals. He's been in the band since 2000, and now, as you know, we're going to be talking to Baz later on in this episode. So
great.
truly going to learn about from his perspective. He's been in the band 25 years. We'll hear all about what he's got to say. Jim McCauley on drums and Toby Hounsham on keyboard.
Well, for me, the interest for me particularly is that I really know the first incarnation, and I had a lot of the records, and so I know them very well. But I don't know the later stuff, so I'm really keen to learn about it. I mean, that's not to say I haven't seen. I mean, I saw the more recent lineup with Baz singing, play live, so I've seen them as well as the original.
Okay, Noel. So I suppose I should also mention that I saw the first incarnation of the band. I saw them three times before 1990, early 80s generally. One of the key dates was that I was at the Hammersmith Odeon gig where they'd booked two nights, and the first night there was, I think people now call it a riot, which led to the cancellation of the second night. That was in sort of February '83. I then didn't go to see them again until 2008. And since then, I've been to see them pretty much every year, at least once, sometimes twice.
I mean, is there in the Stranglers fan group, is there a kind of a bit of a divide between those that are like stuck to the first version and sort of don't really appreciate the versions after that?
I think you could probably say there is absolutely a divide because I think because of all of those things that you said, there's definitely an affinity with that first incarnation of the band, but actually the current incarnation is phenomenal, in terms of the songs are the songs and the sound is the sound. But
Yeah, and that's I think the point I was leading to on that divide there, which I completely respect and understand, is that it's not like they once Stu had left that they started to basically become an impersonation. All the singers impersonated him. It wasn't stars in their eyes, but the band actually evolved and had loads more albums in their own right, as you said. So yeah, there's a whole development that's kind of interesting. Yeah.
I think that's right, and I think we'll see that from their history, and I think that's some of the bits that people miss, because if you think about it, like football teams, they have different players over the years, but they're still the same team, still got the same badge, if you like,
Yeah.
but they're not the same players that were at the beginning. And obviously, bands sometimes aren't allowed that ability to be able to interchange, members along the way. So let's work our way through their history and a little bit about their biography. I guess the challenge for us today, Noel, is that that we'll have to cover their history at high level. I guess we're going to focus primarily on their studio output. They've done many live albums, many compilations, but it makes sense for us to focus on the studio outputs. So we'll do that. We're
Yeah.
not going to be able to get into too much detail just simply because there's so much to go in. So I guess we're trying to give a proper overview here as opposed to a deep dive. Okay, let's go back to 1974 then and just cover a little bit of the key happenings there. So not 1974. This is sort of when things started. So the first four individuals met, started to rehearse, and I guess some of them had other jobs and had other activities.
And I heard that Jet Black had an ice cream van, and at the beginning when they first got together, they used to do gigs, cart their stuff around in the ice cream van. So
That's right.
yeah,
Yeah, that's right. But and actually, interesting you say about Jet because he was one of the individuals who had other business interests and then eventually then committed to the band full time. And then you start thinking about, okay, well, how does a band like the Stranglers get their name? So if we go to their initial name as based on research and whatever was called the Guildford Stranglers, reflected on
yeah,
where the band came from.
yeah, heard that. Yeah,
And there's a few, one of the stories about their name is that they, as part of that rehearsals, they rented a house in Chiddingfold, where they'd sort of spent quite a bit of time preparing, and that's when the sort of band's name emerged, I guess. during the sort of, I guess, the downtime after each day's rehearsal, it felt, I think the band felt like there was sort of near, day-to-day strangling. That's what the way they described it.
Right, yeah, like a struggle
Um,
to get through.
so that word stranglers or strangling was sort of always around that time period. Apparently had a gig in Guildford very early on. Apparently didn't go so well, and I think JJ then sort of said, "Oh, the Stranglers have really done it this time," or something to that effect.
Right, yeah.
A sort of jokey reference, I guess. And then suddenly that seemed to stick, So the Stranglers name was registered on the 11th of September 1974. And then you sort of move forward to 76, December 76, they got a recording contract with United Artists.
I guess at that point in time, that all the major labels were trying to get on the bandwagon of inverted commas punk. Like Polydor picked up the jam. Everyone was desperate to get some kind of punk band on the book. So that would have been a whole scene, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's right. So then you go into 1977, and between 77 and 1990, they released 10 albums.
Wow.
Now, inevitably, we can't go through them all. So what I've tried to do, or what we're going to try and do, is pick out some of the ones that perhaps were the key ones. First one being Rattus Norvegicus in 1977. First single, Get a Grip on Yourself.
Against the soul, the worst crime that I ever did was play some rock and roll. But the money's no good. Just get a grip on yourself. But the money's no good. Just get a grip on yourself, and you should know.
So it's interesting that, yeah. So when the Rattus came out, but the first few copies, they gave out a free single called Choosy Susie, which was a great song. But the B-side, which was called Peasant in the Big Shitty, sung by Dave Greenfield, was fantastic. That was a great little tune. The Grip, I think Grip was London, Grip and London Lady came out. And then later on, when No More Heroes album came out and Something Better Change was out, they actually released a 4-track EP with Grip on it, Get a Grip on Yourself on it as well. So that's on our sort of pink vinyl. So
yeah, still sought after, that pink vinyl EP.
we're on Rattus very quickly. Just going to say what a great song Down in the Sewer was as well. I mean, fantastic song.
Yeah, that was like one of those, I don't know what you call it really, whether it was like some sort of rock opera almost, wasn't it? It was like had about 4 or 5 parts, to it. And for the time, when everybody was doing punk 3-minute or, thrashes, this was like, and that's why at the beginning I said that, they were never seemed to be a part of that punk sort of ethos really. And Down in the Sewer isn't exactly a good reason.
It's almost like prog rock. It's not prog rock, but it's
all.
got that, it's got the whole different stages of the whole song that they goes through. Yeah, really, really, very, very good.
So Rattus was actually one of the highest selling albums of that sort of era, that punk era in Britain. And you mentioned No More Heroes, which is great. That was their sort of they made these two albums literally in super quick time. I think they released like 6 months apart or something
That's
like that.
incredible. That's
And
incredible. That's
you
two
know,
great albums. Yeah.
so No More Heroes that got to number two in the album charts.
Fantastic. I can't believe that how quickly they produced two great albums. Between Rattus and No More Heroes, they released a single, Beaches. Now, that was banned by the BBC because the lyrics were too explicit. They did record another version specifically to play on the radio. But when it got to number 8 in the charts, Top of the Pops had to play it 'cause it's part of the top 10. They didn't want them to play that song at all. Now, luckily, it was a double A side with Go Buddy Go. So the Stranglers played Go Buddy Go on Top of the Pops instead.
Yeah, we then move into 1978 when Black and White has come out, and Black and White is one of those albums that third album by the band was incredibly. I mean, they gave away a free, 7-inch white vinyl,
That's
three
right.
track EP with Walk On By as their main, and then they released Walk On By as a single,
What
even
a
though they'd
song.
given it away with every album. Walk On By always one of those. I think it got to number two or number three in one of those best cover charts.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant. The on the record collecting stuff, Black and White. I used to have a grey marble version of that, grey marble vinyl. I don't know if that was a US version or what, but that was around somewhere. But the other thing that of note, which I definitely don't have anymore, was the song Sweden, All Quiet on the Eastern Front. They actually released it as a single, sang in Swedish.
Låt mig berätta om Sverige. Enda landet där man inte reserar. Större säger det ställer för dig. För mycket tid att tycka för lite att göra. För mycket tid att tycka för lite att göra. För mycket tid för lite att göra. Jag är en snurr på Östfronten. Förändringar på minimum.
Next two albums after Black and White was The Raven in 79 and then The Gospel According to the Men in Black. And then La Folie in 1981. Now, La Folie, Noel, gave us Golden Brown. It got to number two. It got to number two in the charts. It is one of those songs that still, and we talked about the divide at the beginning. That's one of those songs that still splits the fans even now.
Oh, really?
But
Wow.
incredibly popular.
Golden brown texture like sun lays me down. With my mind she runs throughout the night. No need to fight, never a frown with golden brown. Every time, just like the lust, I'm her ship tied to a mast. To distant lands, takes both my hands, never a frown with golden brown.
Then we move on to Feline in 83, Aural Sculpture in 84. Aural Sculpture had the track Skin Deep, which was one of those things got to number 15 in the charts. Dreamtime in 86. And then I guess the last album of that period, which once again splits the fans, it was called 10 in 1990. It was the last album that Hugh Cornwell made with the band because he then left the band in 1990. And he left after a performance of the band at Alexander Palace.
So was
in
it that
London.
performance that caused him to leave, or was he planning to go anyway?
Reading his autobiography, he sort of, I think he sort of felt that he'd reached the end of the line with the band. I think there'd been some challenges with relationships as well in the band
Yeah.
leading up to that point. So I guess it was that key moment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you get them
Okay, but
together that long, it's a bit of a thing. Just to say briefly on that first version of the Stranglers, they actually had 2 John Peel sessions, and they also they featured on 7 times on John Peel Festive 50s as well.
okay, well let's now canter on into the 90s. So in 1990, as I say, Hugh left in 1990, which also led to CBS and Sony dropping the band. They recruited a guitarist to take Hugh's place, John Ellis, and they also recruited a singer, Paul Roberts,
Ah,
so they sort of split his role into two, I guess you'd say, guitarist and singer. That lineup of the band released four albums: Stranglers in the Night, About Time, Written in Red, and Coup de Grace. And that takes us through right the way through to 1998. In 2000, John Ellis left the band, and a new guitarist, Baz Warne, who, as we've said, we'll talk to later on,
hmm.
he was recruited. So,
So he was
and
initially on backing vocals then at that point.
he was initially on backing vocals, yeah, and he then made the first album he made with the band was Norfolk Coast, and they then had a top 40 hit off the back of that album, which is a great album by the way, called Big Thing Coming.
There is a big change coming. I don't care who you are, it will change everyone. And with the big change coming, you better find out who and what you really are. Come on. Oh, come on. Come on. There is a new time coming. We're gonna have to change, applies to everyone. And with the big change coming, you better make a peace with each and every one. Come on. Oh, come on. Oh, come on. I was yelling at the full moon like a wild dog. I'm praying, mother, she could take me to the heavens above. It's coming soon. It's coming soon.
So in May 2006, so once again, interestingly enough, 16 years after he joined the band, Paul Roberts then left the band, and they were back to what was a four-piece band, back to like the original, the way that it was. And Baz shared the vocals with JJ Burnell.
So one other thing on the sort of record collecting front, talking about Baz for a moment there. So he used to be in a band, one of his previous bands was called Small Town Heroes. And some bands have like claim to fame, first coloured vinyl, first picture disc. Their claim to fame was they had the first interactive CD-ROM single. It actually had live footage of the band, the video of the song, and a bit of a biography of the band as well. So that's a sort of the first band to ever have done that.
Oh, brilliant! I know very little about that band, so
Yes.
I guess we'll hear a bit more later on in the episode. So which would
Yeah,
be great.
absolutely.
You then go into 2006 and an album called Sweet 16, which once again you've got Norfolk Coast and Sweet 16 are two really, really strong albums. And that
Right.
got to number 45 in the charts. And they released a song from that called Spectre of Love.
I never knew what made me do it. I just remember it was wrong. I've questioned why I put you through it. Who would have thought you'd be so strong? I should have wrapped you up and kept you safe.
Now, in 2007, it was reported that Jet Black was suffering from some health issues, which forced him to miss some shows, and his drum technician, Ian Barnard, stood in for him. So in November in 2007, they played this sellout gig at the Roundhouse in Camden, North London. I know you've been there. It's a great
Yes.
venue.
Yeah.
And that was the 30th anniversary of them playing that right back in 1977. And they played the same set that they played back in 77. So I
Oh,
thought that was
that's
quite
great.
a
I love that.
nice
That's
thing to do.
brilliant.
Okay, moving into 2012. So 2012, they released an album called Giants.
Once there were giants walking amongst us. Now I have to deal with little men with little hearts. I'm glad my father's not here to see what happened to men like him. They fought the battles these dwarves can only talk.
Then you got into 2013. Obviously, Jet Black's health, as I said, had meant that they'd had to have some cover. So in 2013, they played a UK tour with Jet Black playing the second half of the gig and Jim McCauley taking the sort of first half. In 2013, they did a BBC Proms session where they had the orchestra on four tracks: Golden Brown, Duchess, No More Heroes, and Always the Sun.
How many times have you woken up, prayed for the rain? How many times have you seen the papers apportion the gain? Who gets to say? Who gets to work? Who gets to play? I was always taught at school, everybody should get the same. How many times you've been told, you don't ask, you don't get? How many liars have taken your money, your mother said you shouldn't bet? Who has the fun? Is it always the man with the gun? Somebody must have told him if you work too hard, you can sweat. There's always the sun. There's always the sun. Always, always. How many times has a weatherman told you stories that made you laugh? You know, it's not unlike the politicians and the leaders when they do things by heart. Who has the job? Pushing the knob. That's one responsibility you draw straws for if you're mad enough. There's always the sun. There's always the sun.
Now, we then get some sad news, Noel. In really tragic news, in 2020, Dave Greenfield sadly passed away. He'd contracted COVID-19 while being in hospital for another ailment. Whilst he'd contributed to the 18th studio album, which was an album called Dark Matters, he'd finished a lot of the tracks. And as I say, Toby Hounsham then took over the keyboards in 2021. Finished the last few tracks on Dark Matters, and they released that album in 2021. And that, as I say, that got to number three in the chart, their highest position actually since Feline in '83.
Wow.
Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, Toby was the keyboard player with Rialto, and he'd also worked with Mungo Jerry as well. And I have to say, I've seen the band a number of times since, and he is incredible. He has done a great job in
Well,
terms
he
of
was
that.
a bit of a disciple, wasn't he? I mean, he,
He
basically learned
was,
to play just like Dave, didn't he?
yeah.
Um,
Now, more sad news. 2022 December, Jet Black sadly passed away. He was 84. But they have continued to tour. 50th anniversary tour was in 2024. They played the Albert Hall sellout gig. I went to
Brilliant.
that. It was it's a great venue anyway. But
It is
that was
fantastic.
terrific. Okay, little bit of a side project in from 2023 around Baz specifically during the lockdown period. Baz and a few of his mates, Lee Hegarty, the Rutsty Sea, Paul Gray of the Damned, and Marty Love from Johnny Moped, created a band called Wingmen and released an album, did a few gigs, and I have to say that's great. So be interesting to see if there's any more stuff coming from them.
Yeah, I mean, given it started sort of online during COVID, it's quite impressive, isn't it?
Okay, right. So I know that was quick, and I know that was a canter through their history. But why don't we learn a bit more about Baz's time in the band and have a chat with Baz? So Baz, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, Martin, can you hear me,
Hey,
see me?
I can hear you and I can see you. Yeah, brilliant.
You too.
Let's start with your musical influences, Baz. Could you just start telling us a little bit about what they were and how they drove you into music?
I guess asking any musician that is a difficult one. For me, it probably started with my mum, to be honest. She played the piano. She would vacuum clean around the house. I suppose it's the late 60s. I'm kind of maybe 3 or 4. She'd put me in a chair or a pen or something. I can vividly remember she had a beehive, and she would play the Kinks and the Beatles and Elvis and obscure stuff like James Last. My dad loved Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. He loved Tomita. We had Snowflakes of Dancing. And as I got older, sort of, into the very early 70s, when I was sort of 6 or 7, I can vividly remember avidly waiting for Top of the Pops to come on so that I could see bands like Free and Status Quo and Slade, and it then became apparent very early on that anything with a guitar in it was for me. We emigrated to Canada in 1974, late 1974, and I remember my younger brother Chris. He got a guitar for his 9th birthday. He couldn't really play it very well, and I kind of hijacked it off him. So I was 10. So I've been playing guitar for 50 years. And as the years have advanced, I've become less and less blinkered, I suppose, as a lot of people would be, as to what's good and what's not. I mean, we all know what's crap, to be perfectly honest. But I listen to, I was just listening to some classical. I mean, me and the wife have classic FM on. When you're a young punk teenager, you wouldn't be sitting dead listening to that stuff, or even letting alone admitting you liked it. Music to me is just, it's everything. It's hard to explain. It's all pervading. And having just got back off a UK tour, I always try and give myself a week to 10 days to sort of decompress. But even now, I've only been home for 2 or 3 days, and I'm itching to pick a guitar up again. I can't describe quite what it's like, But my mom would have been my very first early influence. Dad was not musical, but he liked music, if that makes any sense. And he would lie us down underneath this stereogram that we had in the house in the 1970s because it was stereo, and so we could understand the concept of one thing coming out of that speaker
Yeah,
and one thing coming
yeah.
out of that speaker. And it was, in those days, it was, it was fascinating. Just a lifetime, Martin, really a lifetime of just absorbing stuff. I can remember sitting in the back of the car. I must have been in a baby seat, and I can remember listening to the Doves, sorry, the Turtles. I can't do me loving nobody but you. All that type of stuff. And I can remember kicking my feet. I mean, God Almighty, it's 50, it's 60 or nearly 60 years ago that now, and I can remember it. So. I did tell you you were opening a can of worms, didn't I? Asking a question like that.
That's great stuff. I'm going to ask you about the toy dolls.
Oh
So
my goodness!
I looked into the toy dolls, and it looks like about half of Sunderland have played in them at some point. Loads of bassists and loads of drummers. But
I
you were obviously in the Spotlight era when they were when Nelly the Elephant, the big punk classic cover. I think you were on Top of the Pops. Was it a couple of times Top of the Pops?
well, actually, I was on the record, but I'd left the band by then, so
Ah,
I never got to be on Top of the Pops, and to this day, never have been. Much to my chagrin, having watched it all my life, really. The Toy Dolls was a strange one. We used to rehearse in a rehearsal complex in Sunderland, which was the only one that was there. It had about 5 or 6 rooms in it, and the Toy Dolls we knew rehearsed there. I got a message to say that they were looking for a rhythm guitar player. They're a three-piece: drums, bass, and guitar. They wanted a rhythm guitarist and expand it to 4-piece so that they could sing more, backing vocals and have a bit more sort of scope, really. So I went down and I auditioned for a rhythm guitar player. I got the gig, didn't hear anything, and then about 2 weeks later, they rang me and said, "Listen, the bass player's left. Do you fancy playing bass instead? We're going to stay as a 3-piece. You look good. We know you can play. Have you ever played bass in a band before?" And of course, I said no. So I borrowed a crappy old bass off someone and started going down and rehearsing. And I figured to myself, I mean, I was 19, and I figured, well, I might as well get out and see a bit of the world and see what everything's all about. I mean, I sure as shit ain't going to be doing this for the rest of my life, but in this band. But it would be a great eye opener and opportunity. So I joined the Toy Dolls in sort of September '83, I think, and in January '84 we went to the United States. We went twice in 1984. So before I was even, out of my teens, I toured the States twice.
wow.
And it just gave me the kind of the impetus. I mean, I was already well and truly absorbed in it all. I mean, I'd failed all my A levels and O levels. My father was going nuts because, I decided that I wanted to be in a band. That's what I wanted to do. And academically, I was pretty bright, as I kept being told, "You're going to throw your life away" and all this type of thing. And I mean, it's a different world now. But back then, it was just plug your guitar in and play as much as you can to as many people as you can. Now, of course, you just have to record something in your bedroom, stick it online, and the whole world can see it. But it was the Toy Dolls was a real eye opener for me. I enjoyed it immensely while it lasted.
Fantastic. So moving forward, you were in Small Town Heroes, or you formed Small Town Heroes,
Yeah,
and they supported the Stranglers a few times, or quite a few times, I think. So did you get to know the guys then on those tours?
yeah. We first supported them in the UK. They had an album out called About Time in '95, and we went on the UK tour. I mean, such as it was, I think there was only about 10 dates. They were affable enough, I suppose. Paul Roberts, the singer, was a very friendly little chirpy Cockney chap. John Ellis, the guitar player, who I ultimately came to replace, was a bit of a strange cookie. I couldn't really warm to him if it was 95 degrees on a July day. You know, he wasn't that sort of character. JJ Burnell kind of was mythical, and you just sort of kept out of his way. I mean, none of us were. I mean, we're from the northeast of England. You know what I mean? We're not scared. We're not scared of anybody. But the Stranglers, Jet Black in particular, you kind of, ooh, bloody hell, you know, he's Jet coming type of thing. Dave Greenfield just always went, hello, good morning, and that. And we got through that tour okay, although there was an incident which happened in Leeds, which very nearly scuppered the whole thing. But anyway, that's by the by. But that's actually in the book. And then we thought, well, we won't see them again because we kind of ended on a little bit of a sour. And then in '97, 2 years later, they had an album out called Written in Red, and they were doing some gigs in Europe, Holland, France. Holland and France, I think, just primarily, in Germany as well, I think. And so we went out on the road and did some with them. And I have to say, by then, it looked to me like they were going through the motions. I mean, you barely saw them together until it was time to play. They kept themselves to themselves. And it looked to me to be kind of spiraling down to its inevitable conclusion, you know? Thank God it didn't.
How did you go then from there to getting the gig? Because there's a bit of an urban myth about you in terms of your audition. I'm not quite sure how true it is, but it was almost like, well, if you can nail the Golden Brown solo, you're in the band. I don't know what the truth of that is, but
that was more my own myth in my head, to be honest. What happened was we had a guitar tech who came out with us on the Stranglers tours. He then went on to crew for the Stranglers in the very late 90s. I think they did a tour called Hits and Heroes in 99. And he crewed with them. So he was the common link between the Small Town Heroes and the Stranglers. When John Ellis left, they were looking for a guitar player. They didn't want to advertise because they would have just been inundated, 500 guitar players, 495 of whom probably couldn't play properly, to be honest. So they just put feelers out to people that they knew and people that had come across the path before, one of whom was me. So this guy called me, said the Stranglers are looking for a guitar player. I, would you believe, declined. Because I know. My first wife had only just got me back home. I'd been on the road with the Heroes for about 8 years, on and off, with precious little to show for it. And by this time, we had children and little uns and the whole 9 yards. And I just thought, you know what? She's never asked me to do one single thing, not to do one single thing that I wanted to do. But she's asking me this, so I just said, okay. So that lasted for about 2 days. I rang the management and I said, listen, I'm not coming. They asked me why. I told them. He then called me an arrogant northern so-and-so, because I said to him, I'll tell you one thing. No, if I did come, I'll get the gig. It's not rocket science, is it? He went, you cheeky northern bugger, you bloody bloody. About 2 days later, my daughter was complaining of not feeling well at school, so I had to go and collect her, and I didn't drive in those days, so I got all bundled up to walk the sort of mile to the school down through a park, and I had a mini disc, and they'd given me 4 songs to learn: No More Heroes, Hanging Around, Always the Sun, and Golden Brown, and I put them on a mini disc. I put it in my pocket, I put the headphones on, pressed play, and No More Heroes came on in perfect volume. It was loud, but it was, and I just remember thinking, what in the name of Satan's arse am I doing, turning this down? This is, I was 36. Your average man only lives to be 72, so there's half my life gone. I'm thinking, well, I've got a chance here. I've got a chance. My wife, God love her, she must have sensed it, because I got home. She literally just walked up, kissed me on the cheek and said, you should have a go. So I rang the management back, said, am I too late? They said, no. I got £100 borrowed off a mate of mine because I was on the dole. I had no money. And he said he'd lend me the money on proviso that he could come to London with me. So him and I jumped on a train one morning, went to London, went across London to Terminal Studios, which is at London Bridge. And there they all were, the entire road crew, the management, the whole band, and a couple of nervous-looking geezers down in the basement with guitars waiting for their turn. And I'd said, listen, I'm coming the furthest, so can I go last? I've got to get trained down from Sunderland to Newcastle and then down, you know. They said, okay. I went, I played the other three pretty well, I have to say. And it got to Golden Brown, and I just remember thinking to myself, okay, if you nail this, you're in with a sniff. So it started. And I just stood there, and it got closer and closer and closer. I can remember it like it was yesterday, you know. And then I just played the solo, probably about 90%. It was good enough. I mean, apparently the first guy before me stood on a fuzz box and went into Van Halen mode for the guitar solo in Golden Brown. Everybody went, whoa, whoa, Jesus, what are you doing? Bloody hell. So I know. So I played the solo, and the drums stopped, and I just looked across at Jet Black, and he was leaning over the drum kit with his tongue hanging out, and he just went, "Thank Christ, somebody can play that bloody solo," you know. The manager said, would you like to go downstairs for a coffee and we'll talk it over? And Dave Greenfield, God rest his soul, just looked up and said, there's no need. There's no need. He looked at JJ and he looked at Paul and he looked at Jet, and everybody just went like that. And then JJ Burnell said to me, Baz, do you want to join the Stranglers? To which I think I blurted out, aye, all right, you know. And here I am 25 years later. I can scarcely believe it, to be perfectly honest. But I like the fact that I'm some subject of urban myth. I've never heard that said about me before. That's good. I like that.
Oh,
We'll keep
yes.
that one.
Well, you can have this on your ringtone.
Aye, perfect. I will.
So how quickly did you get to, because you're integral now to the songwriting in the band, and so how quickly did that go from when you started to becoming like so, you know, integral with JJ in terms of that songwriting?
Well, the first thing to do was we went to Kosovo, which was at that time a war zone, to play for the troops, and that was 10 days after I joined. So there was a lot of songs to learn. I got through them all in about 2 or 3 days, the set list that they'd given me. I mean, I'm not going to be rude or arrogant or anything about it, but I mean, I can play pretty good guitar, and it's not the hardest stuff to do. You just have to be, it's more an attitude with the Stranglers and a feel, really, if that makes any sense. Hugh Cornwell was a good guitar player who always played very much to the end of his strengths. And I mean, I don't, you know, I'm not above the fact that knowing that, I mean, at any given time on stage, 75% of what I play is his stuff, you know, with my own, hopefully my own spin on it. So that was okay. But I knew that they'd kind of asked me because they knew I was a songwriter. So it got to about 3 months and I thought, well, I better write a song. So I wrote a song that was on that appeared on Norfolk Coast called Dutch Moon. That's the first song that I ever wrote for the Stranglers. I think they were expecting some kind of 3-minute thrash, you know. But when I I remember being pretty nervous, I have to be honest. I made 4 cassettes, old style C30 cassettes, gave each member of the band one, and just waited to hear back. And one by Jet was the first one. Jet Black called me literally about a week later and said, I really like your tune. It was brushwork and stuff. It was jazzy, you know, it was it had Stranglers written all over it. And it didn't really alter too much from the version that I'd made in my loft on a little 4-track. It was pretty much all there.
seen you doing your thing in your own space, in your own time, and that's just fine. But where do you go? And have you been somewhere lately where you sing? You'd be carefree if not for me. Look back on the time when our past loves came together, gazing at a yellow Dutch moon. Do it soon. Remember my face and the places it took you under a fading Dutch moon.
Through that time, we gigged quite a lot, and then there was talk of a new record, and it was okay. Well, we need to find a direction for this. The last records hadn't, they'd been all right. I mean, I think if you boiled their whole '90s output down, you'd make one brilliant album. There'd be putting it all together. It was patchy and it was pretty sporadic at best, and they would all agree with me saying that as well. So then it gets to 2004 and we're messing around. I've written half a dozen songs. JJ's written half a dozen. Paul Roberts has written 2 or 3. And we started working in earnest down in the West Country. So I'd been in the band, by the time the album came out, I'd been in the band about 3.5 years. But we'd been busy. I mean, nothing goes quickly in the Stranglers, even now. Nothing did then. We all live all over the country at the time. I mean, JJ lives in the south of France now, but before we all lived all over the UK. So even just getting together was a chore. And of course, we didn't have the technology that we have now, where we could email each other song ideas, which him and I do all the time. Now, it's you can just put something together and bang it down on an email, and he's got it in France, and he can ring me 10 minutes later. The songwriting's been a very special part of being in the Stranglers. When you write something that everyone approves of and they all give it their best, and then you hear it back at the end, it's quite something to be proud of. It's an achievement, I think.
So I'm hesitant to sort of ask the next question, but I don't want to incur any wrath.
Do it anyway. Go on, do it anyway.
But I could do it. So you're in the book, right? You obviously were you were friendly with Paul Roberts. I can see, that comes through in terms of what you've written. But clearly there was a falling out or an issue in terms of when you left the band. So can you just talk us through exactly what happened? Well,
I mean, it's for those that'll read the book, I think it's all in there and fairly self-explanatory. I mean, he was volatile, Paul, and there was, him and I were of a different. I mean, the other 3 were sort of older original members. I've never shied away from the fact that I'm working class. Paul was working class. We had a camaraderie that you only get between working class blokes, really, to start with. And so I went on tour with him a couple of times, him and I doing acoustic stuff. I lived with him in London for about 6 weeks in Chiswick, right in the early days, 2000, 2001. And it became apparent as the years ticked by that there was he had a beef with the bass player, and there was a kind of they would if ever there was any arguments, big arguments, it was generally between Paul and JJ, and they'd never get out of hand. But I do remember one where they were nose to nose, crimson faced, bellowing at each other. And me and Dave went to the pub. Jet went home, and when me and Dave got back from the pub, Paul and JJ had gone home. So it was just kind of like, well, work's over, And then we did Norfolk Coast, which was a very, very successful album for then, and we went on the road in 2004. Still to this day, probably one of the busiest years we've had since I've been in the band, where we did a lot of shows. We went to Japan for the first time. Australia for the first time with me. And it was all very exciting. And of course, then you think to yourself, well, we need to follow this up pretty quickly. Strike While the Iron's Hot and all of that. So we had some songs left over from the Norfolk Coast sessions. JJ and I had written some more. Paul had put a thing in, and we used to have listening evenings at the house where we get about 3 or 4 bottles of red wine and just put everybody's songs on the machine and kind of make points about them. And sometimes you know instantly if one's going to work, other times you know conversely it's not going to work. So, and Paul just sort of seemed to slowly be drifting away. JJ and I went down to the South Coast and rented a house down there for about 6 weeks to write some stuff and take a whole load of recording equipment down there and get right off the beaten track with no distractions. I wasn't aware that Paul hadn't officially been invited until he called me one day and asked me where I was.
Wow.
And he got pretty upset about that. So he sent a CD with some songs on that he'd done. They were okay. By that time, we pretty much had what we needed anyway. It was he was making it very awkward to defend him. Do you know what I mean? It was difficult to, because he was so confrontational all the time. He would pick little beefs and niggles all the time, and it came to a head one day when he came to the studio to do some vocals on a tune. He'd always been the consummate professional, Paul Roberts. Say what you like about him. Great singer, always prepared, always done his own work, always, right into it, knew how he was going to approach things. Went in to do a vocal on a song. The engineer stopped him and said, "Look, man, you sound like you're just reading it off the music stand," which he actually was. Vocals are always there on the stand to prompt you, so in case you forget something or whatever, but you don't read them as you're singing. He was then asked to go next door to the management offices, where they said to him, "Listen, there's a 4.5-month world tour after this. Do you want to go on the road with all these people that you quite obviously don't like anymore? Or we can make some kind of financial agreement with you." And ultimately, that's what happened. He lived in Brighton towards the end, and it was about 100 miles each way to come into the West Country to rehearse every day. Me, JJ, and Dave lived together in a farmhouse. Jet Black only lived about 40 minutes away, so it was easy for him. But Paul would come, and rather than stay with us, he would rather drive home every day, 100 miles there, 100 miles back,
Wow.
for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. That doesn't encourage great relations, and invariably, of course, he'd be late some mornings, and if we were rehearsing, we'd start without him, which is where they'd say to me, "Baz, can you just fill in on the vocals?" And I remember doing it one specific day, and the song finished. It was Peaches, which isn't an easy song to sing and play at the same time. Well, it is now, but it wasn't then. And I remember getting through it, stopping, and all 4 of us looking at each other and going, "Blimey, that sounded pretty good. That sounded pretty good." And then Paul's car pulled up outside, and everybody's heads kind of went down. I don't want to disparage the bloke. I honestly 100% don't know what was going through his mind, because he hasn't spoken to me since. I tried to call him about 2 weeks after the fact. He did answer the phone, said he would call me back, and I've just never did. And that was 19 years ago. I've never seen hiding a hair of him, spoke to him at all. I've extended a couple of olive branches through mutual friends, but he's not interested. So, hey ho,
Yeah.
It was sad. If I say it was sad, but not surprising. We weren't surprised.
Sad, although, and
Inevitable.
but what I was thinking is that actually the band is better for it now.
Well,
in my humble view,
a lot of people have said that. It was purely by default, and to be honest with you, for a while there was talk of looking for another singer and keeping it at 5. But I think, as I mentioned, these early rehearsals that we'd done proved that the 4 of us could do it. And people were hankering for JJ to sing again, and for it to get back to a leaner, trimmer, more, cohesive four-piece. And of course, when it did, we grabbed it by the short and curlies and ran with it, and we spent so much time together. I mean, rehearsing, writing, recording, and that's what forged the links that we came to have.
Yeah. You seem to, as and I know you can never please everybody, but the set lists are definitely light on the Paul Roberts era, if I can put. I mean, is that conscious or is that
Well, I support. Do you know something? I haven't really. I'm really given that much thought. I mean, I know we did a tour one year where we played something off every album, which obviously constitutes 3 or 4 Paul Roberts albums, and they were very enjoyable to do. Or 5, I don't know how many records he was on, but he was only on one with me. Those songs, I don't know. They'd just come out of the sort of the Hugh Cornwell thing, and I think they were trying to deflect all of that. I don't know. That's a really good question. I just think the songs are better. I mean, I touched on it earlier where I said, "Oh, you could distill the '90s albums down to one really good album." I think, and I still stand by that. I mean, the early stuff is pretty much pale. Well, the first 5 albums are anyway, and I think the 4 that we've made have all been really strong as well. So I don't know. I mean, if we ever tour again, never say never.
hey,
Um,
tease?
we may dust off some of those '90s classics.
Okay,
So
well,
do you when you do your gigs and your tours, and do you sort of like sit and plan the playlist? So do you have like,
Yeah.
almost like a rotation of the legacy songs?
Yeah, I think there's an element of that. I mean, JJ and I have always been the ones that have planned the set lists. Now, Jim and Toby have got a lot to say as well, and are encouraged to do so. They've got, I mean, they're young, they're younger than we are. They've got great ideas and very good. I mean, I don't think I can think of a band where each member of the band is in a different decade. I mean, Jim's in his 40s, Toby's in his 50s, I'm in my 60s, JJ's in his 70s. So there's a lot of vim and vigour from the younger lads, or from Jim, certainly. But JJ and I always traditionally did the set lists where we would start to email each other. I mean, we had a run where we would tour every March, and we did that for years. So we'd start emailing each other in kind of October, November, with ideas, trying to pick songs that A, hadn't been played ever, and there's still a few of them, B, songs that hadn't been played for decades, and C, maybe just some stuff that, as you rightly say, were in the pot, but hadn't been maybe played for 2 or 3 tours. And, people, I mean, the fans will make suggestions as well. And sometimes you think, that's a good idea, we usually end up with a pot of about 40 tunes. On the last tour that we've just done, it was rare in that we didn't change the set once from the very first gig. We put the set together at the rehearsal. Sometimes it works like that. We put the set together at the rehearsal studio and rehearsed it for about 3 days, played it probably about 3 times a day, drilled it in. We all done our homework anyway, so it was just a case of making sure that the tempos and the set flows, it has to flow,
Yeah.
So it was a rarity. I mean, we did that last year as well on the 50th, but that was because we had 2 sets, and it was very specific. We were wearing suits, and I don't know if either of you saw any of those gigs, but they were kind of specialist sort of things, I suppose, where we did the obscure stuff in the first set and crowd pleasers in the second set. This year we decided, and we did have a few more songs that we thought we might rotate and throw in there, but after the reaction that we got from the first 2 or 3 shows, it was like, nah, let's just leave it. It sounds great, and we're enjoying it. That's above all. I mean, you've got to please the punters, but I think above and beyond that, we have to please ourselves.
Yeah,
You've
absolutely.
got to be happy with what you're doing. I mean, as you say, there's heritage songs and this type of thing, but it's not a nostalgia trip really. I mean, it is and it isn't. It's you've got to keep a fine line. I mean, there have been sets where we've looked at it and gone, there's not too much new stuff on here. And JJ himself is certainly an advocate of mixing it up and playing a lot of the newer stuff, which we believe in as much as the old stuff. So, you know, it's quite a hard thing when the subject of a tour comes around and we have to sit down and look at the songs. Oh God, where do you start? You know?
Well, I came to the Albert Hall concert last year
Oh yeah.
as well, which obviously was incredible. Really, I don't know what it was for you, like it was for you guys,
Oh,
but
it was fantastic. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I was ill for 3 days before that. And we'd had to cancel 2 shows before that, or postpone 2 shows before that because I couldn't sing. I mean, I literally woke up one morning to the phone and went, "Hello? Oh no. Oh no, it's gone. It's gone." You wait 3 years for a date at the Royal Albert Hall. And it was like, look, we can't miss that. So we really need to postpone these other 2 shows and just hope that everyone forgives us, which they did. But I mean, we had a Harley Street guy come in to my hotel room. I was taking 3 antibiotics and 8 anti-inflammatories every day. I did that for 3 days. And lo and behold, about 5:30 in the evening of the gig, I was in the bath, in my hotel room, with all the doors shut, with steam coming up and all the soil in there, the whole thing. And I literally just felt it leave. It was a strange
Wow.
feeling. I mean, I imagine there'd probably been a bit of positive mental thing going on as well. I was probably willing myself, you know. But from the moment we stepped on stage at that gig, which is, I mean, it's unsurpassed, the Royal Albert Hall. It's a British institution, you know. And then I was fortunate enough to have the crowd sing happy birthday to me. Then, I mean, you know, at the Royal Albert Hall, come on, it was brilliant.
It doesn't get any better. Doesn't get any
No,
better.
it doesn't. It doesn't. Oh.
Well, I said to Noel that I wouldn't mention the Folkestone fish incident, but I was there for that as well.
Oh, were you?
I feel like a Jonah. Yeah, exactly.
No, that was a real thing. That was on the black and white thing, wasn't
It
it, in
was. Yeah, yeah,
2016? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's real. I wasn't. I mean, I got. I don't. To this day, the fish remark was just a quip. I wasn't entirely certain, but I can be certain that I'd eaten something. And we sound checked and then got back to the hotel, and I had my customary sort of hours pre-match kip, as I always have. And when I woke up, I just felt rotten. And I told the other two, Dave and JJ, and of course, the sympathy levels in the Stranglers are about this big. You know, they just, oh yeah, really? Oh, come on, don't be a pussy. Come on, get your finger out. And I'll be like, okay. Went, did the gig, got right down to a song, thankfully, that Dave was singing. And I actually went behind the curtain where there was a large plastic dustbin with a black bin liner in it. And I threw up into that like you wouldn't believe. But I still kept playing the guitar. I kept on playing the guitar because it was just like a pedaling repetitive guitar riff. So I just kept playing it and playing it and playing it, and then went on stage and said, "Don't eat the fish." Imagine my delight, surprise, horror, and humour the next day when it appeared in the Red Tops, you know, the Daily Mirror, and I mean, they've got no better to write about. You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous, isn't it? But yeah, that was the fish incident. Thanks for reminding me about that, Martin. That's some nice stroll down memory
Exactly.
lane.
My job is done here.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think everybody was a little bit shocked at when Dave passed, and I mean genuinely really shocked. Even
Oh,
now, but obviously Toby has been a bit of a revelation, isn't he? You know, in terms of we actually did a episode about 3 or 4 episodes ago with Rialto,
ah,
obviously, and Toby was in Rialto. So,
yes, he was. Yes.
but yeah,
Yeah, I mean the whole Dave thing, it still catches you by surprise. You know, I mean yeah, it was a black day. I can remember it like it was yesterday, getting the phone call and not being able to believe it. I'd spoken to him about 10 days before he passed. And all he said to me was, I said to him, how are you doing, Dave? He went, I'm thirsty. Can we go for a beer? And I'm like, yes, mate. Well, we'll go for a pint when you know. Um, when he passed away and all these tributes started coming in, somebody posted something up on YouTube, and it was a 15-minute tribute to Dave. You never saw the player's face. All you could see was the hands and the shot along the length of the keyboard with a guy with a posh southern accent, what else, talking away and playing all these vignettes like a medley. And it was staggering. It was jaw-dropping how good this guy was, not only with the sounds, but all of the touches and the flourishes and the feel and everything. You just knew he had it. He had it, and he's so I mean, it was such a bizarre thing, because when Dave passed away, the sales went up for the tickets for the British tour, and we didn't even have a band, you know. And we had all kinds of. I mean, Rick Wakeman threw his hat in the ring. Can you believe that? You know,
Wow. Wow.
I mean, him and JJ are friends, you know. So there was all of this to think of. We thought to ourselves, no, we need an unknown, really. Toby had been in a band called Saturday Morning Pictures, who had done some demos at our Stranglers studio in Somerset. Apparently, JJ and I walked in there one Saturday morning to say hello, and they were all sitting in there and got the shock of their lives when the pair of us walked in. So I had met Tobes, but I couldn't remember, you know. And so there was a couple of people that I knew, a guy in a tribute band who's very good, and different stuff. But to be honest with you, it was so raw thinking about someone else playing Dave's parts. It was just, I mean, you know, I was in the band with him for 20 years. JJ was 45 years, was Jay. And I can't imagine how he was feeling, because I felt like I'd been kicked in the guts, you know. Broke my heart, it did. Because he was just like a crazy, wacky uncle to me, Dave Greenfield. He was my drinking partner. I stayed at his house. We had so much fun together. And we were the melodic side of the Stranglers, the keys and the guitars. So we wrote a lot together and played a lot together, just the two of us, you know. So that was really hard. And Toby, he was in the band before any of us met him, because it was still the pandemic. But he turned out to be the guy that had played this tribute thing on YouTube that we'd all seen.
That's incredible.
I know, and I mean, you know, I mean, talk about a small world. And then it transpired that he played on some demos for JJ way back just before I joined the band, maybe 99 or something. So there was a vague kind of, you know, that he knew, but he wasn't just a Stranglers fan. He's a massive Dave Greenfield fan. I mean, like a total worship the ground Dave walked on, you know. And I mean, he wears Casio watches like Dave did. He drives, he's car daft like Dave. He likes to drink lager in copious amounts like Dave did. Sometimes we'll knock on his belly and say, Dave, are you in there? Because he's just, you know, I mean, as JJ actually said, God must be a Stranglers fan to have delivered us Toby Haunsham, because I can't imagine anyone doing it better. I mean, it's no secret, you know, that towards the end of Dave's time, he perhaps didn't play as well as he did. You know, he was getting a little bit arthritic and different things like that. Toby is flawless. He never makes mistakes, and he's a really great guy. I mean, it is difficult, you know. It's difficult. I mean, we're down to one original member now. I've been there for a quarter of a century. Jim is in his 14th year, so you know, when you join the Stranglers, you join for life, pretty much. If we can keep our bass player fit and healthy, then who knows how long it'll go on for. But Toby's been I mean, to coin the old awful term, he's lengthened the shelf life, you know, as someone so kind of, you know, said. I remember thinking, oh, what a bloody awful thing to say. But I suppose in terms of that, it's true. You know, I mean, we could keep going now that
Was
we
there
have the same.
was there any discussions about finishing?
Yes, between JJ and I, we thought initially. I mean, people talk about putting the phone on silent and all this type of thing. Well, we actually switched ours off. I couldn't stand it. The press, a lot of people only wishing well, heartfelt condolences, but it was so deep that JJ and I didn't speak for about a month. I had my phone off for 2 weeks, and when I turned it on, there was smoke coming out of it with everything, with messages and stuff. But we had thought, how on earth do you replace somebody like him? How do you replace Dave Greenfield? I mean, the short and tall of it was, or long and short of it was at the time, you can't, And then along comes Toby, and we thought to ourselves, well, at the very least, before Toby came along, we thought at the very least we had Dark Matters. We had about 75% of Dark Matters in the can, which turned out to be one of the great Stranglers albums, made under such incredible circumstances. And we thought, well, let's finish the record first. Let's finish it as a testament and a tribute to our fallen comrade, I suppose, for want of a better word. So that's what we did. And then we became aware, as I mentioned earlier, of the ticket sales becoming, ridiculous. And it's like, well, we'll better find a keyboard player and maybe do this too. I mean, I can't tell you what that felt like, when that tour finally came around. Well, man, it was just, what on earth is this going to be like? How are we going to get through this? Before COVID finally came to an end, but they were easing the restrictions a little. I finally got a chance to meet Toby for the first time. Jim McCauley, the drummer, has got a house in the Midlands with a big double garage rehearsal space above it. So I drove down there. Toby drove up there. JJ couldn't get because he was still marooned in France. So the three of us went. JJ was on the phone to me pretty much all the way there. I want to know what it's like. Please keep me. I'm like, don't worry. I'm going, So we got there. He is this guy who looked like a mad professor with glasses on, and I thought, well, he looks the part, But he was standing behind Dave's rig, with all of Dave's equipment, and we were all on earphones, and we just decided to do Hanging Around. And when he started playing the bit in the chorus, Christ, he told his mother, I had to stop. And that's what I was saying again about it hitting you. I mean, it was raw and early then. It was early then. But I had to sit down. I couldn't. I mean, thinking about it now, I'm getting a lump in my throat. I could scarcely believe it, And yet there he was, in spirit, and Dave's sound, Dave's gear, and this guy playing it every bit as good as Dave ever did. And all my fears just flew out of the window. We rehearsed for a whole afternoon. I rang JJ and I was out of breath, and he was whooping and hollering, and I could hear it, he'd catching in his throat, and oh man, I mean, at the end of the day, we're still human, and it's our band, and he was our mate, and he passed away, and it was heartbreaking. I mean, whatever else the music world people want to put on it, he was just our pal, and he died awfully and unfairly and too early, and it was very desperately sad, and it took us a long time to readjust. I think it would be fair to say.
She's just trying
a monkey on his shoulder, and the monkey's getting thinner, but he doesn't make a sound. He's just hanging round. He's just hanging round. I'm moving in the coal hang with the leather all around me, and the sweat's getting steamy, but the rags are on the ground. They're just hanging round. They're just hanging around. Christ, he told his mother, Christ, he told her not to bother, 'cause he's alright in the city, 'cause he's up on the ground. He's just hanging around.
The reaction to Dark Matters has been phenomenal, really, though, hasn't it?
Yeah, we were really rather blown away with it. Actually, it just. Well, I mean, I suppose to a certain degree there was the emotion attached to it, which, you know, obviously helped it to get where it was in the charts. But that notwithstanding, it's a really good collection of songs. And I remember when we decided that we were going to do this, being sent rough tapes of stuff. We recorded some demos and bits and pieces in Oxfordshire in 2019 for it. And then we went on the road thinking that we would get back to it. But of course, we never did with Dave. And it was weird to hear the tapes and to hear him talking back in the studio. Can I have a little bit more of this? And that I can't hear that. And that was eerie because he was sitting on my shoulder. You know what I mean? So that's something else that you've got to overcome. Am I talking too much, fellas? I feel like I'm prattling
good
on
God.
here.
No,
Not at all.
you
It's very
keep
interesting.
going. You keep going.
Yeah,
This is-
really
this is
interesting.
fantastic.
I feel like I'm venting some kind of spleen with you guys.
I'm loving it.
It's
Yeah, yeah.
really
It's-
nice.
If we could be cathartic for you, Baz, I'll be
You
delighted.
most certainly are. What a lovely way to spend an afternoon, tell you.
So,
So-
are there any plans for a follow-up to Dark Matters?
In a nutshell, yes, there are.
Ooh, good.
Plans are one thing, actions are another. I am looking to go down to Jay's house, which I've done on and off once or twice a year for a decade now, in either January or February. He's got loads of ideas. I do too. And as I think I might have mentioned in the book, there's nothing gets thrown away when you're in a band. If you're a musician, you throw nothing away because, I mean, there's a song on Dark Matters called The Last Men on the Moon. I had that song for 10 years.
Among the comets and the dust, galaxies collide and combust. There's so much junk up there, we're getting short on room. Imagine when we colonize the moon, with all the things that you can't chase. They're putting geckos out in space. Look at your apps and maps and lamps across the sky. They launch anything that can fly.
Sometimes it's just the right time. It'll stick its head up over the parapet and go, remember me? And you go, you know, fresh perspective, fresh ears. So there's all of that to do. I think we need to mark this version of the band with the record because Toby Hountram is so very, very good. And I think, yeah. I mean, 26 is going to be quite a quiet year on the gig front, although there are things in the pipeline. There's a French tour at the end of the year. There's some gigs in Germany with a big German punk band in the summer. And hopefully there'll be festivals as well so that we can keep ourselves afloat, so to speak, and also to just see each other and play and keep everyone happy. But in the midst of it all, there'll be some writing done, and I would hope some recording as well. I mean, we used to plan 2 and 3 years ahead. Now it's more like a year. So we know what we're doing towards the end of next year, and actually some tentative plans for stuff in 27 as well. So I suppose, but yes, to answer your question, there is going to be
Great,
hopefully another record. I think that has to
fantastic.
be. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the book, Baz, what was it like an itch you needed to scratch, or what was what was your thoughts behind that?
Well, it's funny you should say that. No, in a word. I had. I mean, I hope you enjoyed it. I've been writing blogs and just little bits and pieces on and off since I joined the group. And with it being the 25th, and people kept saying to me, you should put them in a book, man. You should put that together in a book. And with it being my 25th anniversary, I thought, what better time? There was a little bit of time towards the end of last year. And I thought, okay, let's see if we can collate all this stuff. Let's see if we can find it, for one thing. I mean, barring one piece, which is the early French one, which I found in a notebook downstairs, everything else has all been out there online. They've all been things on, various pages of the Stranglers websites and stuff over the years. But we thought we'd bring them all together in one piece. And then, as I found this French piece, I thought, well, it's unfinished. I better explain why it's unfinished, although I can't remember for the life of me why I didn't finish it. But I thought it's good enough to put in the book. Once having read it, I thought I'll transpose it and see what it looks like on the printed page. And I thought, wow, people will be interested in this, but I must explain. So I explained. I sent it off to one of the editors, and he got back to me and said, well, you need to write a present day thing for every chapter. And I went, oh man, well, there's 40 chapters, So it took about 4 months to do that. And I went downstairs every single day. I was given a sort of a deadline of July, or of June, sorry, so that we'd have enough time to get it prepared and get it printed for the tour and all this type of thing and da-da-da. And it just seemed to kind of take on a life of its own. And then I was thinking about what I should call it. And obviously with it being essentially a series of travel logs, I thought, well, no grass grows on a busy street is one thing. But of course, me dad and all me brothers now, we're all follically challenged. And I distinctly remember somebody mentioning me dad's bald head one time at a football match when we were kids, and my dad said, "Aye, but there's no grass grows on a busy street," And I thought, okay, now I've got my baldy head. That sort of works in good as well, and it just seemed to be the title, and then it just took on a life of its own. I mean, I don't know what people are really making of it. I haven't heard much feedback yet because it hasn't been out very long, but I think people are enjoying it,
Well, I can tell you now, the editor who made the decision for you to write the present day bits was spot on. So I think
Yeah.
if you'd done it just as like a blog,
Yeah.
an album of blogs, it probably would have felt a little bit lazy.
Yeah,
But actually,
yeah.
this
Well,
is like it brings real relevance to what you said 10 years ago or 20 years ago,
yeah,
like today. So it works brilliantly.
yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, it was a real stroke on his behalf. I do agree, because I have downstairs even now. I was just looking at them actually. I've got all the manuscripts. I put each blog together, stapled them together, so there's a big pile of sheets. And as reading material, it's like, okay, well, it's interesting. That's where I was. That's what I did. I tried not to mess with it too much because I wanted it to go out. Although looking at it, some of the diction and syntax and everything wasn't particularly great because I was writing them on the hoof and they were going out on the hoof. And so I tidied it up a little bit. But then when I looked at it, I thought, okay, fair enough. People will go, oh, yeah, I was there. Yeah, I remember that and da 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 da. But putting it into context with today, I mean, there's so many more things came to light reading it all back, you know. And then they asked me, well, you know, you go write about yourself. And I thought, well, that'll take up half a chapter, you know. But ended up taking about 4, I think. So, yeah, I'm pleased.
Okay.
I am pleased with it. I'm a little bit. It is a strange thing, and I think I touch on this when I opened the book. The first when somebody asks you to write a book about yourself, the first thing that goes through your mind, and I don't care who you are, is does anybody give a shit? Really? Really? Does anybody care about my life or whatever? I mean, I've got some stinking biographies downstairs, ones where people are so clearly in love with themselves. You know, it's just, you know, they're worth nothing more than keeping that troublesome kitchen door open that keeps closing. You know what I mean? And I was determined not to fall into that trap. So I try to make it a little bit human, you know.
So just a couple more questions if we can.
Yeah, of
Hopefully
course, of
you're
course.
okay. So the first one is about wingmen.
Yeah.
I just wonder, you know, that seems to have been really well received. And you know, it's got some great songs on it. You know, obviously, I think you did that during lockdown. But what was
We did.
the background there?
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, I've just seen all 3 of the original lads. I didn't see Rob Coombs from Supergrass, although I did see him at a Supergrass gig a few months ago. But on the last Stranglers tour there, I saw Paul, the Damned bass player, came to Bristol. Marty, the drummer, was in Brighton. Lee Hegarty from the Ruts was in London. So I've seen everyone. That was just purely and simply something to stop us from going up the bloody wall with boredom in lockdown. And Paul and Martin came as a rhythm section. I'd never heard of Marty. I'd never met Marty before, although I did know Johnny Moped. Obviously, I knew of Paul Gray and the Damned because he's always been a favourite bass player of mine. And one day Lee Hegarty rings me to ask me how I'm doing. It's not long after we've lost Dave, a couple of months, I think, maybe, just to shoot the breeze, really, and see how I was. And then he said, I've got this couple of lads want to make some recordings. And they've asked me if who I would most like to be in a band with. And I said, you. And I said, really? Well, I said, who is it? He said, well, it's Martin Parrott from Johnny Moped and it's Paul Gray from The Damned. I said, right, I mean, Paul Gray, you, me, and this drummer. And nothing happened for about 6 weeks. And then all of a sudden, all these ideas start dropping into my inbox. And it was wonderful. It was like a breath of fresh air. At the same time, we were starting to put bits and pieces together for Dark Matters. So it was a very fruitful time. I mean, I sat at home. Really. I mean, I hadn't. We did 4 tracks with Wingmen, and I hadn't even met them. I didn't know Marty. I didn't know Paul. I'd never met them before. And then we went down to a little studio in Reigate, which was run by a guy called Rich Cotman, whose stage name was Dick Crippen, and he was the bass player in Tenpole Tudor. So all of a sudden, you know, we're all down there, and then I'm thinking, wow, this is great. And then the music just took on a life of its own, and we really did figure that we could do whatever we wanted. There's no constraints, and really, does anybody care? And then a guy came along and offered us a deal, and we thought, okay. He said, well, I'll put the album out on one condition, that you do some gigs. So we had to get together and rehearse. And the first time we rehearsed electrically, full on, loud, was a week before we went on tour. The reviews had been really good, and we just enjoyed it, you know. And we're hoping, actually, in the next few weeks, we're hoping to, I mean, there's 4 songs done for the next album. There's loads more ideas, so we could get another album out in 26 quite easily. The Damned are on a little break now. The Stranglers are. The Ruts are going out in December. The Mopeds don't really do much anymore. Supergrass have just played around the entire globe. So Rob's got time on his hands. So let's see. You know, it was put it this way, it was far too much fun not to try and do it at least once more, you know.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
brilliant. Okay, and the last question really is about. We ask everybody the same question on the podcast every episode. We've had a whole myriad of answers, but if you had to look back now, have you got a favourite memory that sort of springs out to you, either from the 25 years with the Stranglers or something else?
But just one? Oh, I've got. I mean, how long have you got? A vivid memory which you guys brought rushing back was my audition. I remember the first gig that we did as a 4-piece in Weston-super-Mare in 2006. Paul left the band. We had a gig coming up, a festival, about 3 weeks hence. And we thought, okay, should we just try? You know? Now, there's a song called The Raven, which sometimes the band would open up with, and JJ would sing that one, and then Paul would come on from the second song onwards. So we start with The Raven, and then you could see people in the crowd twigging on that there's not a microphone in the middle and there's only 2 mic stands on one on either side. And then after about the 3rd or 4th song, you could see it dawning on people's faces. There's only 4 of them, you know. And it went up a gear. And then after that gig, we actually had a group hug. The one and only time that I can ever remember us doing that. Me, Jet, Dave and JJ got in the middle of the room and cuddled each other, the 4 of us. And that was that year. Maybe about 4 years later, we did Glastonbury, which was something to behold, because we'd been told over Michael Eavis's dead body would we ever be allowed to play Glastonbury. After one member of the band, not entirely sure who it was, but got him up against the wall, called him a trendy lefty. And he's got a long memory, Michael Eavis. But somebody that persuaded him to put us on, we went on a Friday afternoon, and I remember such of the backstage facilities there that you never hear anything of what's going on. You're in a little, I mean, the backstage is like it's amazing, you know. You don't hear anything. So the sweaty guitar tech comes in about 10 minutes before we're due to go on to get beers and towels and lay the stage out and everything. And I said to him, "Is anybody out there?" And he went, "Yeah. There's 80,000 people out there."
Wow.
Lady Gaga had the same spot the previous year. She pulled about 35, I do believe. So we did twice as well as, if you'd believe such things. But that was an amazing hour, and it seemed like about 5 minutes, you know. And then there's lots of memories. I mean, you know, more recent times would be the Dark Matters thing, getting to number 3. A heartbreaking memory would be losing Dave. A very sad memory would have been losing Jet. But again, I spoke to Jet about a week before he passed, and he was laughing like a dream. I mean, he sounded weak, but him and I just used to laugh, you know, So I was upset, but Jet it was different with Jet than it was with Dave, you know. So I've got some treasured memories, and long may they continue.
Brilliant. All right. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. It's been absolutely fantastic.
Oh, my pleasure.
If I had 2 requests, it would be bring back Spectre of Love into the set, and also put Silver into Blue in it.
Okay,
but, you know, that's
a Paul song.
It is, I know. That's
I like that tune.
It's a great tune, right?
Yeah,
I think it would fit with you, but you know.
I haven't heard that for absolutely years. But when we did the first tours with them, they were playing that, and I remember thinking, that's a good tune. Spectre of Love will make me daughter happy, because I wrote that about her. So that's a good one.
I read that's a cracking, yeah.
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Take care of yourself, fellas.
Thank you so much.
All the best. Cheers.
Bye.
of the day brings a calm that you've been waiting for. You can't wait to close your eyes, fall into the black and disappear. Me, I've always found it hard switching off my hands and tuning out the noise. The shroud of dark and endless peace takes away the day for a while. If there's a better way, I'm all ears. Tell me now. If I could turn back the days and the years, I'd do it now. That's my vow. Got to find a way to face it.
Well, thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. Now, as you know, we do our research from a variety of sources, but if you want to add any more detail for us or even correct us on anything, then please do get in touch with us. Where can they get in touch with us, Noel?
They can contact us on our email address, which is unchartedsoundspodcast@gmail.com.
And of course, you can also get in touch with us on our Facebook group, the Uncharted Sound group, as well as our Facebook page, the Uncharted Sounds page. And of course, you can also contact us on our website, www.uncharted-sounds.co.uk.
And once again, thanks to Crashland for writing the theme tune specifically for our podcast.
Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thank you.